Bigger than capes.
Give me some outside.
Yeah, I was just looking forward to it, and then I watched it.
Oh, dry.
Hello, welcome to Bigger Than Capes. I'm Zach with Angela. We're back. It's a new year.
Are.
It's
2023. Jesus.
So they tell me, and so I'll fail to say for the next 6 months. 3 at the very least. How you been? We haven't done an episode in a couple of weeks, or 3 weeks. I think was the last one.
I can't remember. Time has become an abstract concept, as it does over that period in December. Like Christmas, New Year, it just completely messes things up. It's like a non-period of time that we all experience. And then we rejoin the actual timeline and we're very confused.
Yeah, I kind of glad we've taken a break because I feel like there's a lot of people who put out a lot of content in that kind of period, and it's impossible for me to keep up with it anyway. So
yeah,
I'm glad we've had a little bit of a break and we're back. I like to think everyone will have spent their kind of seasonal Christmas festive holiday period catching up on all of our previous podcasts. Kind of an intensive 2 weeks of nothing but Bigger Than Capes.
Just completely all of it all the time.
Yeah, wall to wall Bigger Than Capes. Just
a cape-a-thon, if you will.
I can't explain why I don't like that, but I don't.
I know, I didn't like it and I said it.
But we're back, and controversially, we're going to be doing our best of 2022.
Yes.
Here in January 2023, which we have a history of doing quite an intensive breakdown of the previous year, and I think we're taking this a little bit more chill and
yeah.
Firstly, I think there has been a lot of good comics.
There have.
And we did kind of a mid-year, year so far kind of roundup, which was to kind of alleviate some of the pressure right here, right now. So
yeah, those still apply. They were all very good. But go and listen to that podcast if you want to know more.
I sure wish I could remember what we recommended way back then.
I remember recommending The Good Asian Guilt and Archie Armstrong.
So I'm told.
And I stand by those statements.
I talked about I Hate This Place. I talked about What's the Furthest Place from Here. And I talked about Homesick Pilots.
Yes.
Stop me if you've heard that one.
Spoilers, it doesn't make it onto this list.
As Homesick Pilots had already finished by the halfway mark, I won't be plugging Homesick Pilots today as the greatest thing in all of the times. Purely because I've said it so frequently in 2020 through to 2022 that I feel like at some point a line must be drawn there.
And that is now.
Yeah, so I'm going to draw a line under Homesick Pilots. See every review on the website, that's biggerthancapes.com, and every podcast where I've shoehorned in an excuse to talk about it. So with that being said, we've got some new recommendations, some new picks. Some of them have appeared on either on the site or on previous roundups, I think, but some of it is a little bit newer or a little bit less talked about.
Yep.
Which is good. We're also going to touch on some films and some TVs and some, I don't know, whatever medias you fancy hitting up along the way.
Yeah.
We'll start out with comics, kind of going back and forth between us. I think we've both got 3 picks for series this is.
I
Have you
have
got
3
any honourable mentions?
I have got some honourable mentions. I got a couple, but one I can directly link into one of my actual ones anyway. So
Okay.
I might just mention it in passing.
I'm going to drop mine early then, just to get out of the way.
Go on.
So one of which I mentioned in the All Ages Roundup was Dead Girls Beach Day by Becca Kubrick, which is the kind of one shot which is coming before the hopeful graphic novel they're going to release this year, which is about the three friends going to the beach, and there being a ghost story about a guy who died there on the beach, and you have to leave a tribute to him. And if you don't, he's going to get you. It's good. It's just really good. It's short. It's fast. It's great. Available now at volume1comics.co.uk. It's good. Read it, buy it, listen to me. And also True Cult is really good. It's been coming out through IDW. Honorable mention in the sense that it was a Kickstarter, I'm pretty sure in like 2020, and it came out, and then it arrived in 2021. So whilst it's getting like a mainstream non-Kickstarter release, it is real good. We did the first issue in a roundup a couple of months ago. So if you want more about that, go check it out. It's real good. Those are my only honorable mentions.
Only honorable mentions.
Everything else is canon. Oh, no.
Have we got another one?
Kind of. Yeah, fuck it. Still the Blue Flame.
Oh yeah,
which I think was on my like best of 2021, which is why I don't want to do it this year. But it's taken so long for the like 10 issues to come out. It's still good, and but I don't want to give too much time because I've already talked about it enthusiastically like a year ago, I think.
Fair enough.
Would you like to get us started on the real picks, Angela?
Well, I'm gonna do my honourable mentions now because I can segue it nicely into one of my picks.
Segue away.
Segue. Honourable mention. I'm gonna say Time Before Time. We are now on issue 19, so if you haven't started reading it, this is not a jumping on point. Just gonna say, go back, read volume 1, read volume 2, volume 3. But yeah, it's still really, really good. It's evolving. It's developing. I've reviewed every issue. Go and read all my reviews. So I'm going to mention that. I'm also going to mention Lego Ninjago Garmadon. I know I wasn't pronounce his name wrong. Garmadon. There we go. Got it eventually. Which the reasons are in the All Ages podcast that we did before Christmas. Can confirm. Gave it to a 7-year-old as a Christmas present, the trade, and he read it in one sitting and was delighted. So winning. The other honourable mention is Quests Aside from Vault, which is there will be a review up on the website hopefully when this podcast goes up, because I have reviewed all of the issues, but the last review got lost in Christmas mists. So yeah, it's about a bar, Quests Aside, run by a collection of fantasy trope type characters and their trials and tribulations, but it's full of humour. The art's really good. I just really like Quest Aside. There's a bard, there's a talking skeleton called Ray who's the cook. It's just really good. And it's, fantasy. It's, anyone who has read any fantasy will be like, oh yes, I recognise these sorts of characters and this sort of situation. Because of course, Quest Aside, they all go on quests. That's the bar. People come in and say, I need 10 strong men to go and wrestle a troll. So yeah, very good, very funny, very enjoyable. But Vault also do another fantasy book. Swords and Sorcery, if you will. Which is Barbaric. So Barbaric, the first trade was out a while ago. So they've picked up for another 3 issues. We had the Harvest Blades in the middle, which kind of filled in a bit of Owen's backstory or what he did before he met a witch, which was very, very good. It was kind of a standalone. You'll get more out of it if you're more familiar with the world of Barbaric, but the idea was it was a one and done narrative. So that worked quite well. But then we're back for 3 more issues, which is Axe to Grind is this volume's subtitle. And it picks up where the first volume left off. So you have Owen, you have Soren the Witch, and you have his old friend Steel, who's been enslaved by a master vampire. And they set off to, fix things. It does expand the world out a lot. We see the sea. See the sea. Quite literally. There's a whole bit. They go on a boat. There's more sort of information about Owen and Axe and the curse, which has a twist at the end, which I will not spoil. Steele's a really good addition because he sort of plays off the group in a little bit different. He brings a different dynamic to the group. But yeah, basically Owen ends up on a revenge mission. And how will that end? Possibly not well, possibly with a cliffhanger. I don't want to say too much because the joy of Barbaric is reading it and just being surprised. But there's lots of blood. There's lots of gore. There's lots of, it is humorous as well. And I loved the first lot and I really like the second lot. I think I probably still prefer the first volume in some regards because I'm that kind of a person. But yeah, I really enjoyed Axe to Grind. I'm looking forward to more of Barbaric. If they can get on that in 2023, that would be good. There is, I think, another one shot and then we're hopefully picking up the main arc. But there we go. That's my first pick.
And a pick I pretty strongly agree with. It's really good. And is it Hell to Pay that we've got coming up like next week? Or
Yeah, very soon.
Real soon. I wish I had more notes for what I'm about to say. Let's just power through. Who needs notes? So I'm going to stick with fantasy for my first for my first pick. Emendation.
Pickemendation. That's what this is. This is Pickamendations.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but yeah, that's what this is. I'm going to stick fantasy with Doug Wagner, Tim Odland, Michelle Madsen, Ed Dukeshire, and Erica Schnatz's Beware the Eye of Odin from Image. We talked about the first issue about 4 or 5 months ago, maybe 6 now. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some months ago, we talked about it. Basically, this follows the story of Helgi, who has come into possession of the Eye of Odin, and with the help of his unlikely friends, Caedlin and Steiger, still haven't settled on how to pronounce that.
No.
They quest across the land to return the Eye of Odin to its rightful owner, and in doing so, hopefully not dying. It's the tale as old as time. Quite heavily influenced by like Norse mythology, although there's definitely some departures. I don't think any of it is directly taken from. It's definitely more inspired by than like a retelling of any specific Norse mythology. There's recognizable things, but there's aspects to the story that have clearly been changed from what you've probably heard in other versions. It's real dumb and it's real fun. Really unpredictable at times. And they kind of come up against trolls and Hundrafolk and dwarves and all classic, Viking problems. It's just good. I think Doug Wagner has written some really unlikely books the last few years between plastic and vinyl. I haven't read Plush yet, which is his newest series, I think. But yeah, he's done some real wild series, and I almost feel like this is one of the more grounded ones, which feels
it's a sign of something.
It's weird because it's fantasy, but it feels more grounded than like his. I'm reluctant to call Plastic like real world, but he's released some really good, really weird books, and this is one of them that I would quite strongly recommend.
Yay.
Thank you.
That's a good one. The next one, I'm going to go with a Valiant book because I am contractually obligated. 2022 was meant to be the year of Valiant. Turned out it wasn't.
Like all the other years.
All the other years. It's no secret that Valiant have had some problems behind the scenes lately, which has impacted quite significantly on the books they've been putting out. But they did put out at least 4 issues of Bloodshot Unleashed. I forgot to mention the creative team for Barbaric. I apologise, Michael Morokai, Chris Addison, and family. But Bloodshot, I don't know. I've not got the list in front of me and I can't turn the page. But yeah, so Bloodshot is Dennis Camp. The artist does change, which I foolishly copy and pasted in one of my reviews on the website, but I was corrected. Thank you, guys. John Davis Hunt does most of it. Georgie Belair's doing the colouring, and Hassan Otsmain who's doing all the other lettering as he does. The artist on issue 4 is Eric Zawadski, who I think has done some Time Before Time. I can't remember. Anyway, so Bloodshot Unleashed is 4 issues and done. It feels like it could have gone longer than that, but it didn't. But Valiant at the moment. Basically, Bloodshot has had a tumultuous history. The best run is still Jeff Lemire's stuff. And I feel like Dennis Camp's kind of drawn on that. So we open with sort of Bloodshot in his house, no sign of Magic or his daughter, Jessie, or the dog, more to the point. And he's basically given this mission to track down soldiers who have been enhanced in various ways. And it's basically monster of the issue. So each issue he goes after a different soldier who's a different problem. In issue 3, he teams up with Exo Manowar, because who doesn't love a crossover with Exo Manowar? Nobody. We all love it. So tonally, it is probably more similar to the Jeff Lemire Sadness era, which is the way I prefer my Bloodshot. I'm not so keen on just the action. I like there to be some emotional undercurrent there. Dennis Camp was very nice, because I did make a point that I'm not a fan of fridging the family, but his solution, or the reasoning that he chose, is spot on. And he reached out, reassured me, stick with it. And he was right. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it's not a long read, 4 issues, quite good. In fact, all of my picks really are really short, actually. There's not one that's more than 4 issues. Says something about me. But yeah, so Bloodshot Unleashed, I think, is the best Bloodshot we've had since Lemire's run, and it's finally put to rest those ghosts of Project Rising Spirit that was just the absolute worst. But yeah, I'm hopeful that Valiant might survive 2023. We'll see. But you know, they did put out some quality in 2022.
I would like Valiant to bounce back, and I think it's been unpredictable since kind of the DMG takeover, and kind of Harbinger Wars 2 was the immediate indicator that this was going to get kind of chaotic.
Yeah.
They have put some good stuff out this year. It's a shame some things have been cut short, and I would like to see them kind of get back to where we want them to be. There was a time when I think both of us would have quite comfortably said that all of our favourite books coming out were from Valiant.
Yeah.
I could have quite easily done a podcast that was the best of 2020, whatever, and it would have entirely been Valiant books.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I hope Valiant figure out what they're doing.
Yeah, please, for the love of God.
Who knows? From one V to another, though, I'm going to go to I can't fucking speak. I'm going to go to Vault.
Again, yes.
Everyone's second favourite. No, probably a lot of people's probably first favourite V publisher.
I would say so. Yeah.
For something else we did on a roundup that I'm willing to bet you all forgot about, which is from Trez Dean, Sebastian Perez, Dee Cunniffe, and Jim Campbell, and it's We Ride Titans.
Oh, good God. I had forgotten about this, and I did read the first 2 issues, and yeah, I forgot about it.
That's okay. I expected that. It's kind of... There is a city, and it is being constantly attacked by kaiju. Big monsters. And it's protected by this one family who pilots, giant mechs to punch them. Kind of Pacific Rim-esque or Power Rangers-esque or... Well, any of those kaiju things also involves mechs. Which there has been a lot of in the last couple of years. There's been a lot of kaijus, a lot of mechs, a lot of I'm going to say Super Sentai, and that's just the name of one of the shows. What's the genre?
Yes, it exists as a... Oh, fudge. What is it called?
Tokusatsu. Yeah. Tokusatsu is the word I want. This airs more on the serious than that, though, I think. Okay, there's some serious Tokusatsu stuff. Okay, I don't know what I'm saying. Basically, We Ride Titans follows Kit, who takes over as the pilot for Big Ol' Mech from her brother Dej, who has a little bit of a breakdown, and we kind of see that she had previously retired from the mech game and the family because of the because of problems with her dad, and I don't really want to dig into it too much because that's kind of the crux of the story, but it is more kind of family drama with giant robots punching giant monsters. But I think there's a really good effort to tell an emotional story about the characters and their family whilst also having big action sequences, which is kind of what I expected from Pacific Rim, and instead just got not much character stuff, got a lot more punching. Nothing against Pacific Rim. It's a pretty good film. It's
good with the punching.
Cracking with the punching. You can't knock that, but it definitely doesn't deal with his brother dying. I'm not here to rant about Pacific Rim. I'm here to rant about We Ride Titans, which is good, and I think gets the characters and their emotions and the monsters and the giant mechs well balanced. It's pretty. I think Sebastian Perez and Dee Cunniffe do a great job of kind of showing everything as kind of dusky cityscapes falling around during the fight scenes. I think it's quite simple in a lot of scenes, but in a lot of the family scenes, but does a good job to kind of show subtle emotion between the characters and kind of speak for itself quite simply. I don't think there's anything needlessly complicated. I think a lot of it is quite balanced out in, hey, it's big monster fights, but hey, it's big emotions too. I hated myself as soon as I did that, but I stand by it. It's good. I like it. I've enjoyed reading it this year, and it's the kind of series that I think works well in what we've been given so far, but I can see potential to do more in that world should they. I mean, it's the same with Odin, same with Bloodshot, same with all these things. I think there's potential to do more if you so choose. Yeah. Over to you for your final comic book pick.
My final comic book pick is also something I would like to see more of. So it is from IDW. Just throwing it out. I've done 2 V's and an I. Which is Star Trek Lower Decks, the comic, which is written by Ryan North. The art is by Chris Fenaglio. The letters by Joanna Natalie and Jake Wood. So it's a small creative team. And basically, so IDW do a lot of Star Trek tie-in comics. It's been there among their many licensed properties. It's been quite popular. They've done, they've done Mirror Universe, they've done the 5-year mission, they've done all of this. So they've covered most of the series, except they hadn't covered the animated series Lower Decks until now. And thank God they did. So it's only 3 issues. I really want more of this. It is tonally and also the art. The art is identical to the animation. I mean, he's absolutely nailed it. And also he's nailed the movement, because it's really difficult as well if you're translating an animated show to a comic. Is a little bit different than a live action show, because obviously we're used to seeing drawings moving. But he's really got that spot on. It works really well. The story is your classic holodeck goes wrong story with a twist, which is so Lower Decks, who of course had Badgie. This is basically, they create sentient life. If you're familiar with, there are so many bits, there are so many in-jokes or references. I didn't catch them all, but handily they are listed at the back of the issue, so you can go back and go, oh yeah, I remember that. For those who forget, but Elementary Day Data had Moriarty becoming sentient and running havoc, and then he created more havoc in Ship in a Bottle, and then apparently we're bringing him back for season 3 of Picard, which, let's not even go there. Honestly, yeah, I know, right?
I don't know how to respond to that.
It's a thing that's happening. So,
whether I like it or not.
Yeah, so in this instance, basically our dear heroes, Mariner, Boimler, Tendi, Rutherford, end up with a sentient version of Dracula, as you do. Classic problems. Meanwhile, there's a second contact mission that's not going really very well. They've landed on the wrong bit of the planet. Is it First Contact they're doing for a change? They are traditionally the second contact ship. So there's that is playing out. So you have the bridge cruise plot, which is, down on the planet, things are going wrong. And then, you have our Lower Decks crew trying to contain sentient Dracula. It's just absolutely hilarious. Anyone who's read anything by Ryan North knows his sense of humour. I mean, this is a man who elevated Squirrel Girl from Z-list to practically A-list in my eyes. So he knows what he's doing. But yeah, it's really good. It's really true to the show. I think you'll get more out of it. I think any Star Trek fan would get stuff out of it. I think you do have to be a fan to truly appreciate it, but I don't care. I'm picking it because it was the most enjoyable thing I read towards the back end of last year, and that's why it's my pick.
I think that is entirely fair. Haven't read much of the comic, but I do really like Lower Decks as a show, and I really like Ryan North as a writer. So, yes, I agree. Good call. And I hope it's interesting because we get so much like next gen comics that I would like to see more. I would like to, because obviously like My Little Pony and Adventure Time and a lot of animated shows kind of ran wild with IDW's comic expansion of their universe. So it would be good to see a similar thing with Lower Decks rather than, I know other things get like one trade and then done. So I hope that's not the case. I hope it continues, because the MLP stuff and the Adventure Time stuff, Invader Zim, which may or may not have been IDW, I can't remember now. No. But I think it can be a good way to expand on what you might only have, 5 hours to tell a full season of. So it's a good thing. My final pick is the complete other direction. So also comes to us from a previous roundup in which I think I was the only one who was right. Is that? Let me just check my notes. I can't find my notes.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, it doesn't specify, but I think I'm the one who was correct here. Anyway, it's Dark Ride. You
were on your own on that one. I do recall that. Yeah.
So it's Josh Williamson, Andre Bresson, Adriano Lucas, Pat Brosseau, and a whole bunch of people doing variant covers for each issue. The first issue, which we talked about, so we're 4 issues in at the moment, I think. Yes, 4 issues in. I think we're waiting the 5th soon. I don't know. We're 4 issues in, Angela. That's what I do know.
Yeah.
I tried to look up last night, like how many issues are going to be in the trade, and just came up with no answers. So I'm not sure. Basically, in issue 1, we see that Arthur Dante wants to design horror rides and have a successful amusement park. Murders his wife. Manslaughters his wife. That doesn't sound like a verb.
Yeah, but that's what he does, yeah.
And then basically his wife's body starts talking to him as he tries to bury her on the beach or in the desert. And basically he ends up making some kind of mysterious deal with a demon or the devil. We don't actually know. And many years later has a massively successful horror theme park by the name of Devilland. Not great in the naming.
Took him 5 minutes to think of that.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a rush job on the naming convention, but hey, what are you going to do? The first issue introduces us to Owen, who is just fucking psyched to work at Devilland, man. You know, he just loves Devilland, for better or for worse. And over enthusiastic. We then kind of see a bit. Apparently, I'm the family drama guy this year. We kind of see family drama between Arthur Dante's 2 kids, Sam and Halloween, who are both like completely opposing like heir apparents to the throne of Devilland. I've made that sound really weird. Halloween is kind of off the rails celebrity of, you know, has a sex tape and is a singer sometimes and is an actress others, and all the kind of cliche overblown celebrity stuff, whereas Sam Hain is trying to just make the park work and figure out what the next steps are, because he's concerned that eventually people are going to stop caring because they already don't care. And you kind of get a lot of real world kind of characters in a weird way. So we have like the vlogger who's YouTubing constantly about the park and the mysteries behind it, which is a thing you do get with real like Disneyland and where is Walt Disney's brain?
It's frozen in a fridge somewhere.
That's right, so they can reanimate him when we have robot bodies.
That's exactly right.
So I'm told. It gets pretty brutal horror pretty fast in the first issue, and we weren't sure where it was going to go after that, and it kind of surprised me the direction it's gone in, but I'm happy with it. It ramps up quite quickly, and I think Josh Williamson has done some really good horror books before this. Nailbiter and Ghosted are both great. Birthright's good. His Flash comic is also a comic I've read.
Exists.
I would go for Ghosted or Nailbiter or Birthright before recommending the Flash. But I don't think there are any good Flash comics. That's another.
I don't know. I mean, you know, the 70s. Anyway.
There's just the Flash doesn't speak to me that much. Kid Flash, on the other hand.
Hey.
No, but yeah, I would definitely check out. If you're into Dark Ride, I would go back to Ghosted and Birthright and the other one, Nailbiter. And if you're into any of those, I would definitely check this out. Also, if you want a horror comic set in a theme park, this is probably for you.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of like, because I read the first issue and I don't think I was that. I can't remember what I said at the time, and I've not gone back to listen to it. But yeah, I remember I wasn't terribly enthusiastic, but now I feel I should go and read some more.
It's good. I like it. I was confident it was really good at the time, but as it's continued, it's still really good, Angela. I'm correct.
You've been proven right. Yeah.
And you're into horror now. That's your revelation.
Oh God, yeah, I know.
Year,
I know what you've done to me. I blame you entirely on that.
It's taken 2 years, but I've turned you into a horror reader.
Yeah. It took a while, but we got there.
So half an hour in, we've kind of covered our top comic picks from the last year.
Yeah.
If you want to stick around, we're going to do some film and TV picks. If you were here purely for the comics, see ya.
Go and read those comics and enjoy life.
Yes. Would you like to do TV or film first?
Well, I'll probably do. I mean, my film list is one, and it's one of the ones you watch. So I would suggest TV, because if you're still here after listening to the comics, my last comic also ties into my TV picks.
No way! What was that pick, Angela?
Really? So it was Star Trek Lower Decks. So we got a lot of the Star Treks last year. I mean, some of us remember the wilderness years, where we didn't have any Star Trek, which, 2005 through to 2017. They were long 12 years.
Oh, you mean post-Enterprise?
Yeah, I don't remember the bit between, I don't remember the bit between the 60s. And...
Did Enterprise really finish in 2005?
Yeah, it did, yeah.
God damn, I'm old.
Yeah, I know. So I remember those wilderness years, having grown up with basically, having a Star Trek every year of my life. And now there is all the Star Treks. And I will mention one of the other Star Treks later as another pick, but because, I'm nothing if not predictable. But I'll start with Lower Decks because it's the best Star Trek series going. Disclaimer, haven't seen Strange New Worlds or Prodigy because I don't have a Paramount Plus subscription. I've heard they're good, but I can't pass judgment. But Lower Decks just does it right. It does nostalgia right. I have ranted before about nostalgia, but Lower Decks is Star Trek nostalgia done right. It takes the essence of what it is and distills it into workplace comedy. And really, that's what we all want, because Star Trek is basically a workplace show. It's...
Controversial.
I mean, they go to work, they beam down to a planet, shit happens. It's slightly different to your average workplace, but there's entire episodes where they just stay on the ship. And I mean, Data's Day, that was an entire episode where Data just goes and speaks to various people.
It's true.
So it's never been, a lot of people will sort of say it's groundbreaking science fiction, and yes, in its own way it was. But Lower Decks also understands that at times Star Trek can be really, really stupid and silly. And there is an aspect to it, like the whole bit with the masks. I can't remember the name of that episode. It might be even be Masks. The one where they put on the cursed masks and Data turns into a god, and it's just super weird. But that is referenced in Lower Decks, and it's just referenced like in passing. It's not even a plot point. It's just like, and it's like, yeah, this show gets it. This show understands that Star Trek can be optimistic and great vision of the future, but also really silly. But there are emotional through lines, and there is character development, and the characters do develop. And it's just interesting, and it manages to hit that balance of character development, nostalgia, and also sheer absolute ridiculousness, but it makes it work. So yeah, the best of the Star Treks. Controversial.
Controversial, but I am inclined to agree with you. There's some really good references to all previous Star Treks. But it's just fun. It knows how dumb Star Trek can be, and I think if you're watching Star Trek refusing to accept that, then dude, come on. That's
yeah. I mean, I'm gonna mention it now because but Star Trek Discovery would be one of my other picks just because
it's good. It's real good.
It's good. I know people are like, but this isn't Star Trek. It's like, well, people said that about Next Gen, and they said that about Deep Space Nine, and said that about Voyager, and pick anything. But I think season 4 is probably my favourite season apart from season 1. Yes, season 1 is my favourite season. Hold my hands up. Season 2 has its moments. Season 3 starts off really strongly and then peters out into a complete and utter mess, in my opinion. The pacing of season 4 isn't marvellous, I admit, and it suffers from pacing problems, and there are moments where plot takes precedence over character, and it shouldn't. But overall, it just feels like it's more confident and it knows what it's doing. So the second best Star Trek is Discovery. We speak not of Picard.
It's refreshing to know that somebody else doesn't like Picard, because a previous podcast host, who shall remain nameless, described Michael Burnham as fundamentally unlikable, and I had to immediately respond with, "Oh, like Picard." It's
yeah.
Picard is way more annoying in unlikable in Picard than Michael is in Discovery.
Agreed.
Don't at me.
Yeah.
Who am I kidding? No one's listening anyway. They all checked out when we started talking about Lower Decks for the second time.
Like, you've already mentioned this. I'm like, yeah, but it's really good. But I thought I'll throw Discovery in there to prove that I like other Star Trek also, except Picard.
Fair. Similar vein to Lower Decks for my first TV pick is, and cancelled, God forbid I picked a show that hadn't literally been cancelled. So last year and this year, me and Will talked a lot about how good Final Space was, which was very similar to Lower Decks and very cancelled when there was only really one season to go. This year in shows Zach thinks were good that got cancelled, Inside Job, which was good and is now cancelled because we're not allowed nice things. And not to take any shots at anyone, but if you're out there and you're not watching shows because they look too much like Rick and Morty, oh man, you're gonna have a real rough next 10 years. Really good show. Follows basically a group of, I'm realizing now it is very similar to Lower Decks because it is also like a workplace thing. Follows a group of people who work for Cognito Inc., who basically are the deep state, who, control the conspiracies and are in charge of robots to replace the president and clones to replace celebrities that die and all good stuff. A lot of that was season 1. We got part 2 of season 1 this year and part 1 of season 1 we got part 2 of season 1 in 2022. We got part 1 of season 1 in 2021. I stand by what I've just said. I don't understand what I've just said.
It makes sense.
Thank God.
1 in 1, 2 in 2. Eh?
Sure. Yeah. The more we say it, the less I know. But as a show, I think good representation. We have different characters from different backgrounds and a good mix of male and female characters and genderless mushroom characters, like all good shows do. And I think some really dumb jokes, but some really well put together jokes. There's a Keanu Reeves as a vampire episode, which is what all shows need. They just don't always know it. Good show. If you like Lower Decks, you're probably going to be into Inside Job. If you like Final Space, you're probably going to be into Inside Job. Sure, if you like Rick and Morty, maybe you're going to be into Inside Job. And if you hated Rick and Morty, you're going to hate Inside Job because you can't get past that. And I'm sorry. That's
your problem.
It's okay. At some point, you'll catch up. It's fine.
There you go.
I don't know how else to.
Just go and watch it, is your basic point.
Watch more stuff on Netflix. It's really good. Stop paying your TV license. You don't need the BBC. They're holding you back.
They're holding you back with the iPlayer and all of the things.
The only way we're going to get live government-funded fireworks on TV at New Year's on another channel is if we all get rid of BBC now.
That's the reasoning.
Look, guys, we've got most of a year to make a change here. Let's all start watching All 4 more. And
or you could watch ITVX, which I'm reliably informed is Britain's freshest streaming service.
On LED screens on the side of buses. I don't know how.
I know.
They've put so much money into plugging it. Anyway, the point is, right, I'm not trying to change the world, okay? I'm just trying to change where Netflix. I get my New Year's countdown.
Just run it on a different channel. They don't do it on ITV. I mean, I'm always in bed at that time now.
I don't know. Maybe.
I don't know. I've not watched it in a couple of years. I've got a dog now. I can't.
Every year I end up seeing Hootenanny, and I just think it's time to draw a line under Hootenanny and then the jump to BBC One for the fireworks and just acknowledge that what the people really want is a good alternative. Make it so.
Number one. But
this is so off topic. I can't even figure out how long I've been talking about this. It feels like...
No. Should we move on?
Please, yeah.
Okay. So, to another streaming service. So I'm going to go Disney Plus. And we had a lot of the Star Wars this year. We've had all the Star Treks. We've had a lot of Star Wars. And, you know, some of us remember those wilderness years after the prequels. Before the Clone Wars. Anyway. Sorry. The point is there was a lot of the Star Wars this year. And some of it was good, and some of it was Picard-like. But the best of it was Andor, and I'm just throwing that out there. It was. I know some people preferred Obi-Wan Kenobi because that had Jedi in it. I'd like to point out none of the Inquisitors did the helicopter thing at all. So, you know, that's why I watch a show with Inquisitors in it. Rebels clearly showed us that they can helicopter like Mary Poppins. That never appeared in Obi-Wan Kenobi, and that's really why it was the worst show. But yeah, no, Andor was no one was asking for a prequel with Cassian Andor because, spoiler alert, he dies at the end of Rogue One, and everyone was like,
what?
I know. To be fair, they all die at the end of Rogue One.
What?
I know. People were like, I mean, it was weird at the time because people were like, it's weird because we, you know, how are they going to fit these into canon? Because we don't see them on Yavin, you know, during, you know, episode 4. And it's like, yeah, there's a reason for that. They're all dead. I mean, everyone knew going in that was going to be the case. But everyone was like, why are we making a prequel about the guy who died at the end of Rogue One? And then many of them ate their words because what happened was Tony Gilroy came along and turned it into a very clever political thriller type, rise of fascism, voice of the people, birth of a revolution kind of thing. He follows various threads. He doesn't just follow Andor. I mean, you know, his name is in the title, but to be honest, there's as much about other characters as there is about him. It's not just all Cassian all the time. Some people found the first 3 episodes slow. I actually liked them a lot because I'm unpopular that way. But it does pick up. It has like episode arcs, so you have chunks of episodes that... What's interesting is Disney released it weekly, which was really frustrating because quite clearly the episode would just stop and you were like, that's it now? That's it. It did work far better if you went back and actually binged each arc. And looking back, Disney probably should have done that, but I would have got no work done, so I can see why you didn't. But yeah, it's just really good. It's really fleshed out the darker side of Star Wars a bit. But I mean, we talk about dark and gritty. It kind of is and it isn't. There's still hope. There's still, there's more shooting of people randomly, but Star Wars has always had people shooting each other randomly. It's not new. But yeah, very well written, and I think a lot of shows could stand to look at. And the pacing was really good. I mean, people complained about the pacing, and they're like, actually, it's fine. Good characterization. It's expanded the world out in ways that is unexpected, and it was just very good. And there will be a season 2. What worries me about season 2? I mean, season 1 covers basically a year, and season 2 is meant to cover 4 in one. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. Let's see. But as a thing, it was the best Star Wars thing that came out last year. And that's an undisputed fact. By me.
I'll admit I'm not up to date with my Star Wars for 2022. But I've heard a lot of good things about Andor, and we'll get to it at some point. I've heard more good things about Andor than I did about Obi-Wan.
Yeah, that's correct.
I also made a perhaps fatal mistake to start rewatching all the Star Wars in December.
Oh, you did, yeah.
I think it was the point where I got to... I've watched the prequels and I've watched Solo and realised I've still somehow got 7 films to go. Which... I'm not sure why that stressed me out so much, but boy, did it. So yeah, at some point I'm going to carry on with my great Star Wars rewatch. And then I was going to circle around to the shows when I've kind of watched a sickening amount of Star Wars already. I'm not rewatching Mandalorian. I don't care enough.
But season 3 is happening. I mean, we had season 2.5. They called it the Book of Boba Fett, but we knew better.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone forgets that even existed.
Yeah, that's something I didn't watch properly. I'm not even sure I watched all of season 2 of The Mandalorian. I lost interest hard. But speaking of Disney Plus...
Yes.
my other film... Well, one of my other TV picks was She-Hulk, which... Boy, did people hate She-Hulk.
Didn't they?
But it's real good, so I don't know why.
Because it's a female-led show that doesn't take itself too seriously.
Which is just fucking amazing.
But that just annoys the internet. The internet doesn't like that sort of thing.
That is very true. At a point where I am quite marvelled out, I think... Since Endgame, I'm a little bit I don't know. I haven't been very invested in anything. I quite liked Spider-Man No Way Home. I enjoyed Multiverse of Madness, but I don't know. Some of the shows have been good. Some of them have not lived up to the hype. I like that She-Hulk is like half-hour episodes and fun and doesn't ask anything of me. 10 years or 10 plus years into Marvel, I think being asked very little of from a show is kind of pretty great after the kind of demand of investment in a lot of the previous shows and films. I can't remember anybody's name. The lady who is She-Hulk, help me.
Tatiana Maslany.
Really good. Does good as Jen, does good as She-Hulk. Plays both sides quite well. I think the overall casting, Tim Roth as Abomination, it's good stuff. I think we all need a constant reminder that he's really good at acting, even when he's Abomination, he is very good. But yeah, good cast, and yeah, CGI is kind of wonky, but I don't really care.
I mean, I just think of people like, the CGI is wonky. I'm like, yeah, but I remember Automan in the 80s.
Yeah, people complain about the CGI, and I think, yeah, but I've rewatched the Power Rangers film, like, you know, in the 2010s, and that is some of the worst CGI. And I know because they just ran out of money, but you can't afford texture if you've got no money. So I look at, I have that and Lawnmower Man, and like,
oh god, Lawnmower Man, yeah,
constantly. It's hard to stop thinking about Lawnmower Man once you know about it.
Yeah, true.
So every time I see people complain about how She-Hulk looks, I just think about Pierce Brosnan and
oh god, yeah,
how Lawnmower Man's definitely the reason he was Bond.
I mean, I can buy that.
It's either that or Dante's Peak, and I know which one I'd prefer to be the truth.
It's Lawnmower Man, clearly. But
I mean, there's a sequel to Lawnmower Man. I haven't seen it. I don't know if I ever will, but boy, am I optimistic to know there's more.
I don't know how you can top that, though. But anything with, I mean, CGI ages poorly anyway. Like, if you go back and watch the first Harry Potter film, which I wouldn't unless you already own it, like, the CGI in that is absolutely appalling. Like, the whole bit where Harry is on a broomstick being shaken about or goes to get the key.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
It's just, Jesus Christ. I mean, Lord of the Rings, to be fair, has not done bad, but if you compare Lord of the Rings, which is a lot of practical creatures from Where to Workshop, and then you compare it to The Hobbit, just saying. So CGI is going to age whatever, so it doesn't matter whether it's good or bad as long as you can buy the story and the world and the acting is there, because ultimately nothing ages well with CGI, and kids, 50 years from now are going to be like, the most cutting edge thing now, they're going to be like, yeah, that was rubbish. Yeah. So don't sweat about CGI and don't spend time freeze framing stuff and counting pixels and shit. It is what it is. If you can buy the person as the person, character,
then buy that person as the person.
If you can buy that person as the character, then it doesn't really matter. Just go with it, Or alternatively, just pretend it's a radio play and just don't watch the visuals.
Just listen to She-Hulk with me.
Just listen to it, and then you can have it all in your head with perfect CGI.
Don't know what to say to that. Do you have a third show, or are you all showed out?
I mean, I could just defend the BBC slightly. Because I will say that one of the most consistent shows that they put out is Ghosts, which is also a sitcom. Because it's something I can actually, like, all of our family can watch and it's fine. But it also is surprisingly touching. Like, why am I crying over a 17th century accused witch passing over to the next life? I've no idea, but it's just very wholesome and nice, and it's the kind of thing that we all associate with the goodness of the BBC, as opposed to Jules Holland's never-ending career of Hootenanny. So yeah, and they've done. Oh god, are we on series 4 now? We've just had, and they're working on series 5, and it just feels like, man, there's been a lot of it. There is a remake they've done in the US, which I have not watched, but I don't know. I've no interest in watching it, but the original Ghosts is just charming and sweet, and yeah, but also hilarious at points as well. So it ticks all my boxes, and also goodness from the BBC. So I will continue to pay the license fee. And I'm afraid your fireworks are going to have to be on BBC One. Sorry.
Well, it's like that, is it, Angela?
Yeah.
No, that's fair. I'm not saying all the BBC is bad, but
to be fair, New Year is the worst time. But, they gave Sam Ryder a job after he won Eurovision, so that's not... Well, he didn't win Eurovision.
Hey,
he came second.
He came second and somehow has got all the prizes. Impressive.
Yeah.
All it took was a war for him to...
Yeah. Basic.
Not a great look for us as a country.
As a nation, no.
So my final TV show is, and I ain't going to linger on this for long because there's not a lot to say. It's Sandman. It's
that was a thing.
It's a thing. People were really excited about it for about a month and a half. In the opposite of Stranger Things, where people are still hellfire clubbing about, and it seems like Sandman just came and went overnight, but it was legitimately a very good adaptation of quite a good comic. Casting is good, acting is good. It's one of the few versions of a comic. It's one of the few comic book shows that I would argue you can watch Sandman and you probably don't really need to read the comic unless you really, really want to. It covers a lot of the same ground. Maybe that'll change as the show goes on, but it's not like Civil War where it's a completely different story and not reading the comic and watching the film are completely different things. I think Sandman is very close to Sandman and just works. They made one of my favorite episodes one of my favorite issues of Sandman into an episode of really good TV. Half an episode of really good TV. Good job. 5 stars.
Yay.
Would recommend.
Apparently now has a season 2.
Yeah. Or
Not been cancelled by Netflix.
Yeah. Congrats, Netflix. We'll put that in the category of things I'm allowed more of. Not like Inside Job or they didn't cancel Final Space, but hey, what else did they cancel? Everything Sucks. Only I cared about that. They took it away from me. Daybreak. Did it end?
Yeah.
Sure. Could there have been more? Probably. Just needlessly complain about Netflix now. You want to do some films, even though you've not seen any?
I've not seen any films. It's just very difficult for me to see films these days because it's like I can't leave the dog for too long. So I'm going to go with Werewolf by Night, which we covered on a podcast. And can I just say, can we have films that are like shorter? Like, I don't need 2.5 hours, or is it nearly 3 hours, Mr. Cameron, with your avatar and your water and things? Like, I don't have time to invest in that. I have very limited free time. I have to make choices over what media I consume. If you make a short film, even if it's just an hour and a half, I will invest in that more. But when it's like 2 hours or like 2.5 hours, I'm like, I ain't got time for this. I just don't. I can't abandon my dog for that long. Or I just can't be asked. But Werewolf by Night was it like 60 minutes? It wasn't even 60 minutes, was it? I don't think. It was like just like an extended...
it's like less than an hour, but it's a good hour.
But it's a good hour, and it works as a film, and it works as like a homage to the old black and white monster films of the 30s and similar eras. And that I think it shows as well is that if you have a good story and you have interesting characters, and you don't have to pad the plot out, because a lot of these films, a lot of the time, it feels like they're just padding the plot because, heaven forbid, we should have a runtime less than 2 hours, and it's like sometimes it doesn't need that. You can trim it down, and if your film is an hour and a half, that's as long as it is, and people will enjoy it. And Werewolf by Night was very enjoyable. As someone who doesn't watch a lot of horror, I'm a horror reader now. This may change. It's horrific, but it's not overly horrific. It's got a nice tone to it. It's interesting. It has good acting. It has good writing. It has good music. The music's really clever. If you want to know more, I go on about it quite a bit in that podcast episode, Werewolf by Night, that we did. So you can check that out and go, oh yeah, Angela was right. So yeah, I just need more films like that, please. And I know Marvel are trying to do more sort of specials, which I think is nice, because it means that, for people who don't have time to invest in their massive epic. And also, it does feel like it's one of the better Marvel things, because like you, I am so burnt out on Marvel. And I'm also like Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. That's happening.
That's the thing. I've seen the trailer, and I like many things, but I don't like. I don't need epicness from Ant-Man. Do you know what I mean? Like the first Ant-Man, the climax is a fight in a children's bedroom with Thomas the Tank Engine, and that's fine.
Really good.
It doesn't have to be, oh my god, the world, and we're going into the quantum realm, and Kang's there, and no, I just don't. It's all dark and epic in that, and I'm like, it just feels like any other Marvel movie now. It doesn't feel like Ant-Man has his own kind of tone. It's just like, oh yeah, end of the world, all of this CGI, landscapes, big bad, blah, blah, blah. And I think what Werewolf by Night showed was that if actually Marvel tilt it a bit and just go a bit into the more weird realms, and do more original feeling stuff, people will probably respond to that, because we are a bit burnt out on the whole Marvel movie thing. That, you know, I think everything built up to Endgame, and once Endgame was done, they've really struggled. There's been the odd thing, but I think they've struggled with what to do next. Phase 4, I don't even know what phase we're in. We're in a phase. But it just feels a bit of a mess. It doesn't feel coherent like it used to. It just feels like a bit of a mess. And I just think they need to just capitalise on the more quirky things and do different things, and don't necessarily just go CGI, end of the world, evil bad person and all of that. Rant.
I completely agree. I think the first Ant-Man felt like a weird heist film, and I don't know if we need Cosmic Ant-Man.
I don't.
Which is fair. And I do think some of the films that are being made by Marvel defy reasons. Like that one with the lack of point from last year or the year before.
Which one was that? Eternals? That didn't
Eternals. I don't know what the reason was.
We own this comic book property. We'll make a film of it.
Well, yeah, that it feels like that was the motive, and it's always fun to see people start giving a shit when when the film gets announced, because I know a handful of people who cared about the Eternals before, and it was largely because they needed to read the Neil Gaiman one because it was a Neil Gaiman comic. And I know more Neil Gaiman fans who'd read Eternals than Marvel fans who knew anything about the Eternals. And then it's another one that felt like it was there just to push a really uninteresting aspect of Marvel.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there's a lot of them, but there are some really uninteresting parts of the Marvel universe that occasionally crop up. Yeah, no matter how hard you try, you keep pushing me aside, and I can't. Okay, that's share, but the Inhumans suck. I'm sorry. I've tried. I read all New Inhumans. I read Uncanny Inhumans. I read Inhumanity. I've read that Paul Jenkins, I think it's called. It's the guy's name, book from way back when. I've read old school reprints of Inhumans. They're not interesting.
No.
They occasionally can be, but ultimately it's just the X-Men in space.
Yeah.
Don't at me.
No one's listening at this point. It's fine.
I know this has been so many obscure rants that we're just in the void now. We're in podcast void. Films. I've seen
films. Go for film.
I've seen a whopping 5 films in the cinema this year. They've all been good. I'm not going to give you a whole thing, but I am going to say, and I'm going to start with the most statements of Everything Everywhere All at Once was fucking amazing. I don't need to be the guy to tell you that.
The Golden Globes have said it for you.
Maybe. I don't know what an award show is. People have said it. Lots of people have said it. It's good. It's really, really good. Have a good time. Go watch it. We're also the target audience because we're all multiversey, weirdo 90s kids. Yeah. 2 is real fucking dumb, but it works, is Bullet Train, which...
Oh, yeah.
It's just a lot of people trying to kill each other on a train with quite a really good cast, and quite a lot of that cast are people from Atlanta, which the show Atlanta, not
the place Atlanta. Yeah.
Really good. Just good, fun, requires no real thought. It's just a good time. 3, I've got Night Sky, which is a kind of noir road trip sci-fi about a bank robber who gets shot. This girl saves his life, and in return he promises to drive her to this far off place she needs to go to in the States for reasons. And I don't want to give too much away because it's twisty and odd, but it's good. It's real good, and it's real. That and the next 2 films are real low budget, but that was like good but unexpected. Next, I got The Loneliest Boy in the World, which is about... Okay, it's a little bit Norman Bates, but kind of also a fairy tale. Hear me out. This guy accidentally kills his mother and doesn't have any friends, doesn't know anyone, accidentally kills his mother. There's a plane crash in his town, and he decides to dig up the bodies of the ideal family from this plane crash. And then the next morning, they're all alive and they really are his family, but they're still like decomposing zombies. It's dumb. It's good shit though. It works. And finally is Cult Hero, which is about a guy who used to have a reality TV show where he would break up cults and save people from cults until he accidentally killed an entire cult by accident. And now this kind of classic, like, Karen character is worried that she's accidentally had her husband join a cult. And the only person she can find to help break up this cult is this guy who's accidentally killed everybody, who's this like Dog the Bounty Hunter-esque like TV personality, ex-TV personality, who together they have to break up this cult and save her husband. It's real stupid. It's real dumb. It's real low budget. It's a mess. It's a good time. Those last 3 were probably the stupidest films shown at Grimfest this year in Manchester. But if you're into stupid horror stuff, go to Grimfest next year. It's fun. They're also not available to stream anywhere as far as I can find. But if you can find a copy somewhere in the
depths of the internet,
I'm sure they're on some guy's YouTube channel or available, like, I don't know,
Vimeo.
They're all going to be on Shudder sooner or later, I'm sure, but that's assuming somebody has a Shudder account. Somebody must.
Somebody's got one. I mean, the model's there.
So yeah, pretty weird recommendations here at the end, Angela.
I feel like we slid somewhere.
I would love to have video game recommendations or something, but I the most recent game I played was was the God of War that came out like 4 or 5 years ago. So also to go back, the best TV show I've watched this year is Atlanta. I binge watched all 3 seasons of it. There's a 4th season now that I need to watch. Didn't come out this year. Season 4 did. It's good. It's real good.
Atlanta, the TV show, not the place.
Don't have any video game recommendations to go for because I'm so woefully out of date. Don't have any board game recommendations. I can hit you with some music recommendations if you really...
Go on. I mean, I've listened to not a lot this year. Well, I have, but it's old stuff. It's not new.
Yeah, fair. I've done a lot of that. quite obsessively for something that should be its own podcast, but instead will just be my mental breakdown. Providing you are into kind of indie stuff and like, I don't know, emo-y, poppy, punky stuff.
I was a teenager in the 90s, so
yeah, fair. Please Don't Take Me Back by Martha is a really good like UK indie emo pop punk thing about, not pop punk, like poppy and punk, but not pop punk. That is a thinly veiled evaluation of life in the UK right now and Brexit and how everything is getting worse. Please Don't Take Me Back as a single initially comes across as being like a song about breaking up with someone, then wanting to get back together and then realizing you shouldn't, but it's actually just about like how everyone wanted to go back to the old days before the EU because it was better, but they weren't better.
No.
What else I got? The Unraveling of Pup the Band by the band Pup is it is real good. I described this really well to someone the other day as upbeat misery. Yeah, they're
oh yay!
Every Pup album is miserable, but they're surprisingly chipper about it. Isn't that what you want in music? I got other stuff. I don't know. Those are my top two things. Go listen to those albums. I'm correct.
Go and find them.
If anyone really wants more music recommendations, hit me up. I can go.
Yeah.
This has been a bit of a mess and has gone way longer than I thought this episode was going to go because we've gone.
To be fair, I feel like we were focused on comics, and then when we dropped the comics, we dropped coherency.
There's also been some tangents that
did not see coming,
if not just plain ridiculous. We will be back next week for more of our regular-ish programming, I guess.
Yes. Hopefully we will be doing some interviewing with Cavan Scott if technology and his PA
such things.
If those things actually come together, I need to email his PA again and find a laptop that works reliably enough to do this. So cross your fingers and pray.
I'm also going to start plugging now because I'll forget otherwise. If you are in or around the north of the United Kingdom, I am hosting a small press market on Saturday the 4th of Manchester.
February.
Saturday the 4th of February in Manchester at the Union, which is like the MMU, Manchester Metropolitan University Student Union.
It's on Oxford Road. It's quite easy to find.
It could be true. I think technically it's on like Higher Cambridge Street, but it's.
But you go.
You're in the area. It's not that far from the centre of Manchester, and we'll have many good UK artist people together. Come to that, hang out with me, tell me you listen to my podcast, and I'll quiz you to see if that's actually true.
Possibly about this very episode.
I'll ask specific questions about what's wrong with the BBC. If you're in the north of England, come to that. It's going to be fun. We have some really good artists, and I am excited. Not that this tone suggests, but trust me, I'm happy.
Enthusiasm.
It's going to be great. If I wasn't so tired from doing all the work, I would have more enthusiasm to promote the work. Cool. I think that's us.
That is us done. Yes.
Thank you for suffering through 2022 and through Bigger Than Capes evaluation of such a year. If your favourite things from 2022 were mentioned, sweet. If not, Twitter us. Sign up to our coffee and then message us there to tell us.
Yes.
Also, presumably at Bigger Than Capes. Facebook us, I guess. if you're that way inclined. Instagram me. Instagram the podcast, probably.
Yeah, all of the social media that we are currently on.
Yes, let us all have a good time and enjoy 2023. It's going to be a good one, right? Right?
I mean, I'd say it can't be any worse, but I said that about 2019, and look where that got us.
So, thank you for listening. We've been Bigger Than Capes, and as always, keep on trucking, baby.